So, I watched the new Gladiator film recently, Gladiator 2, which is a movie that didn't really need to be made, let's be honest. I don't think it was terrible by any means. It's always fun to see large groups of people fighting in an arena to win their freedom. Kind of reminds me of my school days somewhat.
You're gonna die here, Will.
Okay.
That briefcase makes me want to punch you.
Of course it does.
What a spastic badge.
That's been pointed out already.
Your shoes are well shaped.
Yep, the shoes.
It's just that this wasn't a film that was needed, and from what I can tell, nobody really wanted it anyway. However, it does have its entertaining parts. I found the last half an hour especially gripping, so if you enjoyed the first one for its action sequences, then you'll probably enjoy this too. But instead of a Gladiator sequel, what I would have loved instead is more big budget epics set in Roman or other ancient cultures. Yeah, thanks to the success of Gladiator, we've had a few big budget historical epics in the 2000s. Films like Troy, 300 and of course Gladiator director Ridley Scott's own Kingdom of Heaven immediately spring to mind. But it certainly wasn't a lot, and there are so many ancient cultures that could be explored. Maybe a successful box office run of Gladiator 2 might help with this. The release of Gladiator 2 did inspire me to go back and watch the original Gladiator again, and it still more than holds up today. It's a much simpler film. It's a straight-up revenge story with a small amount of political intrigue that drives the plot forward between those moments of delicious violence. Just like any big-budget historical production, a lot of great tales have emerged after its release. So in this video, I'm going to be going through my favourite Gladiator facts that both relate to the production as well as the historical period that it attempts to depict.
What we doing live? Echoes in eternity.
DreamWorks, who were the production company behind the film, wanted Ridley Scott to direct, but he wasn't sure at first. Clearly, you can't just throw a bungle of money at the guy, so in the effort to convince him of the artistic merit of the film, he was shown a painting from 1872 by the French artist Jean-Léon Gérôme, which depicted a battle in the Colosseum with an extremely animated crowd. Called Pollice Verso, but in a better accent, which roughly translates to thumbs down, the painting depicts a gladiator standing over his defeated opponent. I mean, just look at the detail in this. You've got these women here giving the thumbs down. Kind of reminds me of Tinder for some reason. Oh, you're under 6'6"? Kill, kill, kill. Interestingly, the painting is believed to have popularised the myth that giving the thumbs down meant death. The thumbs up and down is of course featured in the Gladiator movie. The truth is that historians aren't actually sure about this. I've seen accounts that say the opposite is true, where the thumbs down actually means don't go and kill them, with up meaning the opposite. Whatever the truth, Scott loved the painting and he eagerly signed on to direct the film. Incidentally, the painting is now housed in the Phoenix Art Museum, so if you can go and see it, go and see it.
Gladiators, I salute you.
Through movies like Gladiator, we think that these entertainers always fought to the death, except they did not. In fact, it was actually kind of rare for a gladiator to die in the arena. It was more akin to something like professional wrestling. Don't forget that these fighters were popular figures. People had invested into them, so the potential for them to be killed would not be something that the investors would have wanted. In fact, it's believed that quite a lot of fights were even scripted on occasion, just like the WWE. While the vast majority of gladiatorial fights were real, let's get that right, most of them were real. Scholars have estimated that gladiators had a 10 to 20% chance of dying during a contest, which, considering its ancient times with no health and safety policy in place, that's not too bad.
If you want to give away the best gladiators in the whole of the Empire, then I want double the rates.
You'll get your contract rate, so you'll get your contract cancelled. You don't like it? And you can crawl back down that shithole that you came from.
Okay, I'm going to be straight up with this one. This is probably my favourite Gladiator fact. A lot of people think that using celebrities to sell products is a relatively new innovation, except it really isn't. Gladiators were famous entertainers, they were loved by the public, so they were the perfect conduit for a merchant to sell their product through. Figurines, statues and jewellery were made of them, copies of their weapons were sold, and they were even used by politicians to endorse their campaigns. I'm so glad that kind of thing does not happen today. But the opportunities for marketing didn't end there. Advertisements would also be read aloud in the arena during breaks in the entertainment. Apparently, Ridley Scott wanted to include all of this in the film, but he later relented, thinking it would seem ridiculous to a modern audience, which is hilarious.
Those giraffes you sold me, they weren't made. They just walk around eating and not mating. You sold me queer giraffes. I want my money back.
Oliver Reed is probably my favourite actor in the film. His performance is so commanding. He's enthralling as the Gladiator promoter Proximo. You may already know that Oliver Reed died during the production of the film, and his scenes were finished with the use of a double and CGI. Reed was known for being, how can I say, a hellraiser in British acting circles. His long career in film is littered with stories about his drinking habits, so much so that he was actually believed to play up this caricature of himself whenever he was interviewed. In order to seal his role in the film, Reed promised Ridley Scott that he wouldn't drink during the production, and he didn't. He didn't have a drink for months, until he was pressured into a drinking match with some British Navy sailors in a pub. Sadly, he would die of a heart attack. Ollie was very well liked on set, and being the old school actor he would often deviate from the directions. Omid Jalili, who plays a slave trader, tells this great story of how he was grabbed by the balls by Reed after his character sold him the queer giraffes. Apparently, the script instructed Reed's character to punch him in the face, but the crew thought that a nut grab would be a lot better. Jalili went on to say that Ollie said, "Do you mind if I really grab your word to make it authentic?" I said, "Fine," so he did. Usually you do the scene, they say cut, and you have a few minutes to reset before you go again. Ollie continued to hold my nuts during the reset. I was so frightened of him that I thought it was part of his acting process, so I allowed him to hold me while we talked about the food in the hotel. By take 3, I became aware of a massaging sensation. By take 4, he said, "You do realise this is a wind-up, don't you?" Everyone thought it was so funny they kept it in the final cut, and he didn't have to punch me. Brilliant.
You'll meet them again, but not yet. Not yet. Yes. Not yet.
One of the more heartening scenes in the movie is when Maximus's pal Juba lays to rest the figurines of Maximus's wife and son in the arena at the end, telling him that he'll see him again, but not yet. This is a callback to earlier in the film when Juba told the story of his own family and how he'll see them again in this life or the next, but not yet. This gives Maximus some encouragement. Well, that scene at the end wasn't actually supposed to happen. Apparently it was Oliver Reed's Proximo that was supposed to do that. Obviously that didn't happen, what with Reed's death. Instead, his character was killed with the use of the double and earlier footage of Reed. As it turned out, I think doing the scene with Juba was just right. The callback to the earlier scene and the kinship they shared made it perfect.
Enough of politics. Let us pretend that you are a loving daughter and I am a good father.
This is a pleasant fiction, isn't it?
My only complaint about this brilliant film is that they used real historical figures and changed their fates when there was really no need to. What would it have mattered if they would have invented their own emperors? There were loads of them, so what does 2 fictional ones matter? I'm not a huge fan of historical fact being changed, even in entertainment. Yes, it isn't a documentary, but it still represents real people. I get that some dramatic license needs to be taken on occasion, so having things like weapons that weren't invented during the period in which the movie is set isn't a huge deal. Well, unless they've got a Roman army packing some automatic rifles or something. Just as long as a story hits the same points as historical facts, then I can cut them some slack when it comes to things like this. But there really wasn't any reason to use the real people they did in this film. So, the facts. The 3 main historical figures in the film were the ruling family. Marcus Aurelius, his son and his daughter. There's actually no evidence that Marcus Aurelius wanted the empire to return to a republic form of government. He died in what is now modern-day Austria, and he never saw out the war as depicted in the film. Commodus certainly did not murder him. In fact, he actually co-ruled with his father for the last 3 years of his life. His sister, Lucilla, was exiled for plotting to murder Commodus, and she was eventually executed on his orders. Commodus actually ended up reigning for 12 years until he was poisoned and then strangled to death in the bath by a wrestler. Saying all that, Maximus was originally named Narcissus in the script, and yes, that's how it is pronounced.
Narcissus. Narcissus.
Narcissus was actually the name of the wrestler who strangled the real Commodus in the bath. So, would we have got that scene instead if the name remained? Eventually, the writer, David Franzoni, decided to create Maximus. It's just a shame that he couldn't do that with the other real figures.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
No. This is probably the most controversial thing I'll say in this video, which is a bit rich considering I've been talking about the pitfalls of historical fiction, a man squeezing another man's testicles for a laugh, and I've risked the wrath of every straight woman on Tinder. But the Are You Not Entertained scene is much better in the extended version.
All you do is kill, kill, kill. The crowd don't want a butcher, they want a hero. We want them to keep coming back. So don't just hack them to pieces. Remember, you are an entertainer.
Let me explain. So, there was a scene shot with Proximo telling Maximus that he needs to go out and entertain people and that he's killing too quickly. Maximus then goes out and kills his opponents quickly and then turns to the crowd and asks them wherever they were entertained. This scene is included in the extended cut of the movie, and honestly, I think it makes the Are You Not Entertained scene much better. It provides a better balance to the irony that I think they were going for. I think it also gives a better impression that some time has passed too. In between the last contest we saw and this one, he's probably featured in several contests, and as a result, he's won over some fans. I do love the scene in the original cut like so many people, but it's not really clear why he's going so mental at the crowd. In the extended version, we see that it's because they want an entertainer. Maximus needs to win the crowd to win his freedom, something he comes to realise after his later chat with Proximo. So, those were my favourite facts and, I suppose, production information about the movie Gladiator. There are plenty more out there, of course, but I just wanted to give you my favourite ones. Have you got any to share? Have you seen the sequel? What did you think? Is it a worthy successor? Is it horrible? Do let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribe. I'm still quite new to this, and I've got a lot of content planned, a lot of weird media stories, so if you enjoy that kind of thing, yeah, do consider dropping a subscribe. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day wherever you are. Cheers.